I don't know
Yeah.
if you want me to use it as a backup or
It's
You won't be able to.
no.
no,
Yeah.
I think it's recording. Normally there's like a record. I hit that and it pops up.
Oh, yeah.
saying
No,
it's
I
recording.
see, yeah.
It's showing. Yeah, it shows in the
Oh, there we go.
participants.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yep, we're good. All right.
All right,
Perfect.
sweet. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order then. It's 6:01, and I think we're going to have Mike run roll call real quick, and then we'll get to public comments.
All right. Jennifer Bonte,
Here.
Melissa Hins,
Here.
Jed Henry,
Here.
Sarah Borkard,
Here.
and our newest member, Andrew Hartman.
Present. Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Nice to meet those of you who I haven't yet quite met, and I look forward to seeing everybody on the regular and working with Mike on Parks and Rec and all of you and making decisions to make the village a better place and more hospitable for all of us to live in and enjoy. So glad to see all of you here on Zoom, and potentially in the future getting together in person for these meetings would be nice as well. Although I think we all understand the silver lining of virtual meetings due to time constraints and travel and all that good stuff. So it's just nice to see everyone. We're going to go ahead and transition, I think, at this point in time to the public comment section. I don't know if we have anybody in the waiting room or anybody who's been pre-registered at this point, Mike.
We don't have anybody that registered. We do have people in the room. At this time, if anyone would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand, and we'll ask you to unmute yourself at that time.
I'm on a phone call. I can't unmute myself. I just unmuted the phone call portion. This is
okay.
Can I go ahead and?
Yep, just state your name and yep, go for it.
Sure. This is Michael Pomikelski of 3047 Melody Parkway. I just want to make a quick public comment. I know you guys are dealing with the signs are on the agenda. I just want to speak real quick about that. Side of the packet, I noticed that you had price points for the 8 and the 6-inch or 6-foot signs. I was kind of curious why a price point for 5-point signs wasn't included, as most neighborhood parks are 5-foot length currently right now. I'm also concerned a little bit about the number and placements of signs. Inside the packet, it lists 3 in Xander, 2 in Bear, 2 at Memorial. You know, this seems like it's a large number of signs to be being placed in some of these parks. Also, with the signs at Memorial, you want to make sure you don't interfere with events that are held down there by the swim team. Also, you list 1 in Glacier's Edge, which is the park down by the gun shop and the Chinese restaurant. You know, that's a very small park. I don't know if it warrants a sign. I think I'd much rather like to see that money spent on landscaping rather than signage. Also, some of the conservancies, I don't know if they all need signs. Some of them are rather small. And one thing I didn't notice was that there wasn't a price point for the signs that are currently installed in the village. That wasn't given as an option. I mean, these signs are mostly 19 inches tall by 5 feet long and are flexible, as other signs can be attached to them. I talked about it kind of last time. I mean, these signs can be dressed up. You can go and get a 12 by 12 inch metal or plastic sign depicting the village logo, and that sign can be attached with a few screws right onto these wooden signs, and they look much different. The Ice Age Trail did this to their sign over on Lewis Street. And then you can also attach other accessory signs to these. The wooden signs are flexible and they can be changed as needed. If you wanted to put QR codes on these signs, you just go out and buy a little QR, you just screw it right on. I just want to say that these signs are expensive. And as they're being added to our parks, you have to ask what isn't being installed in the parks in the ways of trees, benches, playgrounds, and also what is the tax impact. If we want to try to hold property taxes down in Cross Plains, I think that expensive signs are more of a want rather than a need for our village. I thank the committee very much and hope you have a great meeting.
Thank you very much, Michael.
All right, anybody else? I do not have anyone else.
All right, then we'll move into reports. From myself, I guess first, I'd just again like to say being this is my first Parks and Rec Committee meeting, it's great to be here. I got a bit of a crash course in the Parks and Rec facilities from Mike this afternoon. Did a ride along with Mike. He's quite the busy guy out there doing work on behalf of our community. So it's just really nice to get out and just kind of see the lay of the land, what projects they're working on, and just kind of how things are going. And so I'm diving in head first into the work with Parks and Rec, and look forward to being on this committee and working with all you fine folks to make some decisions that benefits our community. So glad you're all here. Glad you're part of the process of making decisions and making recommendations to the board. And I look forward to getting to know you guys as we move forward into the next couple of years. Hopefully you'll stay with us that long. So thanks for that. Any other committee members have any reports they'd like to give at this point in time?
This is Melissa. I just wanted to say to Mike and to the committee, I think the pool building looks great. I know there's still a little bit of work to be done, but much improved over, of course, what we saw for the last year or so, but even for the last several years. So thanks for your work on that.
And we should also give Mike a little round of applause for being the Parks and Rec Director of the Year for Wisconsin. Like, okay, let's go, Mike. Nice job, buddy. Much love there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was feeling a little odd asking you, Mike, to tell us a little bit more about what the association, what they recognized you for. So I hope I'm not putting you in an awkward spot to kind of just, to talk a little bit more about the
Sure.
designation or the recognition rather, but can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the Wisconsin Park and Rec Association, a big part of where, just like other associations throughout our other professions, a big part of where we meet with our peers, discuss different tasks and topics, things that are happening in our community, things that are going well, things that aren't, and really gets us to focus more on how we become better people in our community, not just directors, but being a part of our own community as well. I was recognized by the president of the WPRA as someone who has went above and beyond and just done an outstanding job within the WPRA and association, understanding that what's given within the association is also given within each and every one of our communities. So it's not necessarily, it's not Director of the Year. It's not, they do have those awards, and I have not received that, but it's just recognition from our peers around us, and more or less in regards to the association. So I do plan on getting that award at some point in my career here. I keep pushing for it, and I do appreciate it. Obviously, thanks for all the accolades from all of you, and also from our community. I didn't know that went on Facebook. I got a message yesterday from Kevin Enthusiast saying congratulations and thank you, and I was just like, what? Like, and I was like, oh, okay. So I do have to thank Bobby and Becky for putting it on there, as I probably wouldn't have, mainly just because it's not just me. Obviously, I've been able to do a lot of great things here because of committees and people like you on those committees, and also all of our staff. It's just amazing. I mean, just what we've been able to build as a group and as a community in regards to everything is more reflection of all of you and all of them more than it is for me. I just happen to be lucky enough to be in this position to do it, and I do love every second of it and appreciate the kudos, but the kudos really goes to everyone else. So, but thank you.
And humble. I mean, what else can you ask for? Thanks, Mike. Well, I mean, right back at you. And now, yeah, if you've got any report you'd like to start up with.
Oh, can I just add a couple of things?
Yeah, sure.
This is Sarah. It was brought to my attention by someone that there was some concern about offerings of softball at the 5th grade and above level, because apparently that's where, I don't really know much about softball in Cross Plains, but someone was telling me about how typically the Cross Plains kids who play softball, I think they play through like Wisconsin Heights or something, or I forget which area, but they were actually considering not allowing Cross Plains kids because their numbers were so high. but I think they did end up allowing it yet this year. But this person who had talked to me was just concerned and just was wondering if there's any way that this could be like a team formed or something in Cross Plains. And I don't know if that would fall under Parks and Rec, but just knowing how big of a deal baseball is, I was kind of surprised to hear lack of options for softball. And then the other thing was just personally, there's a group of us who do like a boot camp class in the morning. And unfortunately, our person who runs it is going to be moving the end of June. And I'm wondering if there would be, I know when I don't know, years ago, the rec department did offer some kind of training class early in the morning. So I wondered if that would be an option put out there, because I know there's quite a few of us who enjoy working out outside. So anyway, just thought I'd put it out there.
So which mornings do you currently run the boot camp?
Right now we do Tuesdays and Fridays, but it's pretty flexible. But pre-COVID, the group would get pretty big in the summertime. So I think there's quite a few people who would be interested.
Okay.
Where do you guys do that at? Down in Xander?
Right now, we just do it in the parking lot of Glacier Creek.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Is it normally a lot of teachers or just a group?
No, well, right now it's only 5 people. COVID kind of changed things up, but it's mostly people in my neighborhood, but there's a couple from outside of it too. But we meet at 5:15 in the morning. So
good for you.
Yeah.
I actually used to teach the one-stop body shop class back when I was really into the fitness aspect of it too. And I've really just it's just so much going on that it was really hard to commit to something like that. But I can definitely throw some info out. There are definitely instructors that live around here and that are a part of stuff that we could throw stuff out and try and get things rolling for you for sure. Not that I should probably address all these things, but I also want to address softball a little bit just with that question. The baseball, softball over the last, I'd say 5 years is in a serious decline. What we noticed, and I do apologize, we should have had it at least as an offering for all of those. We're running out of space within our activity guide as well. So we're trying to find programs that have been very popular and things that have been baseball and softball declining. So I wouldn't say that even baseball has the same, they have roughly the same number of programs being offered for each. It's really, we don't have any baseball over machine pitch anymore. We used to have Little Bucks all the way through Pepper League, which was 14 years old. We used to also have a high school softball team, roughly the 14 to 16 age group. And then the 12 and up we had, we had 12U, 10U, and those softball numbers have really just declined. And what we had always expected and heard was that people were going to Middleton Baseball and Softball Club in Middleton to play, as they wanted more competition or they wanted something a little bit more than what we were able to offer. The other thing that we've ran into with those programs over the last few years is finding the recreation base for it. So finding other teams to play that are really just trying to learn the game and not be competitive is really tough, which is surprising, but it's your Mount Horeb rec department and your Verona, all those, they've really just kind of stopped offering it, or it's been something that's been given off to a parent run group or something just to try and give something a little bit more competitive. So but that's good to know, and in the future we'll definitely look to add something of that sort, or at least have more discussion on that prior to the start of all those seasons as we go. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, I don't mean to derail us from the agenda, but there was something that caught my attention. And I was kind of relative, but not exactly. And that was about well number 2. Well number 3, that is going in kind of in the Gills Way neighborhood. Is that right?
Correct.
And do you have to move a park?
No, not anymore. Yeah,
okay.
So there was discussion on that. The neighborhood wanted us to move the playground, and obviously they'd get a new playground out of it because it's really tough to just move playground. But they wanted to they wanted to move the playground and bring the well up closer to the road.
Yeah.
The village board did decide not to do that. They decided to put the well where there was already a placeholder in the green space in the back of the park. So well 3 will be taking place there. It sounds like next year is the start of build. And now when we get to that point to discuss well 2 tonight, that'll be part of that project. So they're actually doing an update to well 2 and a building of well 3.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other committee members have anything before we get to any reports from Mike?
No.
All right.
All right, my report. Normally, Andy and everyone else, usually I have kind of a write-up where I try to get a write-up in there and just some highlights and pictures of things. I wasn't able to do that this month as I wasn't in here as much, trying to get the pool ready, obviously parks opening. So it's normally at this point of the season, it's Dane and I to take on all the maintenance as we don't have any other part-time help for that. However, Katerina and Andrea over the last couple of years have gotten involved with that as well. So they were up there painting and they've been cleaning pool. So everyone's kind of all hands on deck at that point. But I do try and do some type of report if I can. And I'll even add a lot of the pictures and things to next month, or in the next month I'm kind of busy too, but in the future months, so that you do see things that have happened or things that we are doing. So I don't have that type of report, but I do have some things to discuss. In regards to parks, we have some bleacher issues up at Bear Park. I do have it on the village board agenda. It did not make our parks agenda. Normally something like this would for just a discussion and recommendation to the village board in regards to new bleachers up at Bear Park. The bleachers behind the large diamond, we have a completely broken slat or seat that we have on there. And then we also have a broken frame within those bleacher areas. So I'm requesting, I do have, I don't know if you can see this, I do have this on the village board agenda for new bleachers to be added to this. As you can see, these nice teal colored bleachers have been around since about 1978 is what I've heard. So they're all fiberglass and they have held up quite well. But we have had to replace them with boards and things. And I probably would have went that route in regards to boards. However, board material right now is pretty expensive as well, and for just a small fix or short time frame fix. However, now we're having more issues with the frames, and so the frames are obviously what make me a lot more nervous. And also, as you can see, it's hard to see right here, but I took a picture. This right here, this area here is actually broken in half. And you can see that the guys over the years have welded things onto it. It's just not the safest thing for us to have it within our parks. And they do get a decent amount of use for our home talent games on Sundays and Thursdays. And I finally was given the schedule, and it looks like more or less we're going to have a full gamut of games, Monday through Friday up here. So my plan is to go to the village board and request that we purchase 2 new bleachers or 1 large bleacher, depending on, I have not received the prices back yet from them, nor have I received the timing that we'd be able to get it. That's another question. I hope it's quick enough, but the plan is to use parkland dedication money to purchase those bleachers, providing it comes in under what we have in there currently in that fund. So just wanted to make you aware of that. And even if we don't replace them this year, we will be getting rid of both of those bleachers and maybe just putting a press release out to let people know, make sure they bring chairs, that we won't have bleachers there. This is an area that will probably get redone a little bit with the new well and or bathrooms that are coming in, mainly to meet all of our ADA requirements. So we're currently grandfathered with a lot of the things that are within our parks. However, when you are going to do something new, you have to meet all the ADA requirements. And that's from the bleacher area all the way up to the concession house, even onto the ball diamond itself has to meet that ADA. So we will be working obviously within that to meet those standards moving forward. So that's the first thing.
Hey, Mike.
Oh, yep.
It would now be a time to talk about that, or do you want to wait?
No, it's not on the agenda for tonight. So unless you have a question about it or something, but it is on the village board agenda. And it looks like Bill even just put it on the consent agenda. So he's just more or less trying to say we're going to do it. We'll see. That just means that the village board can take it off for discussion purposes, which I'm thinking that they will. It's probably a good thing to talk about too. I mean, just within the pricing ranges. I'm hoping to get all those back in time for the meeting. You don't get as quick of a response now that people they have a hard time with materials, understanding or letting you know how much it's actually going to cost. So it's been taking a couple of weeks for a lot of those things.
And can we get teal?
What's that? Yeah.
Can we keep the teal color, Mike?
I hope not. That's kind of the plan to kind of phase those out. The other thing within our current bleacher systems is that you can actually only have 3 tiers. That's the height that you can go without having a cage or something around you. And ours currently go to the 5 seats, which is way out of code. So we'll be looking to try and get all those to be the same. We've obviously been trying to keep up on trimming and mowing, just general maintenance throughout the parks. Got all of our shelters ready, so they're open to the community right now. We have ran into a number of issues within Mary's Place, just the sensors that come on, which the price of those was astonishing to me. To try and get new sensors for the toilets, for flushing, and for the sinks. Instead, what we've currently done is put signs up saying like, please hold, like the flush button, rather than that could be due to the sensors not working coming into this year. So, and recreation, obviously staff's been working. Andrew and Katerina have done a wonderful job getting the activity guide up and ready and information out to the community. And they've also done a great job with planning for all of our staff. So incoming staff for the summer, we have staff trainings planned before we kind of start things up here on June 7th. We have brought in through the month of April, our recreation revenue is a little over 90,000. I think 90,858. Our goal, or what we have set for the budget for this year, is roughly 130, and I don't see that being an issue as today to where we're at. Within where we've been in other years, it's right in line, if not a little bit above where we were in 2019. So that's nice. So yeah, I just want to make sure that Andrea and Katerina are obviously commended for their work to date, even with just the after school program and keeping things rolling in the club. They've done a wonderful job of that. So, and then moving on to aquatics, a special thanks. Obviously, Melissa talked about the pool looking nice. I have received a number of compliments and a couple of complaints regarding the color choice of it, which is expected. I can't make everybody happy, I guess, but I wanted to thank Jeff Mahoney publicly for getting the volunteers together. He did a great job. I think he was expecting to maybe have a few more kids there, especially in the afternoon, but they got the first coat of it done. I was hoping they were coming back the following Wednesday. They didn't. So, myself and Dane and Katerina and Andrea have tried to kind of pick it up and get it done before we open here on Memorial Day. So, and then we were able to pull Parker Van Buren in. He came home for the summer, so he's actually going to be working for us at the pool as a lifeguard, but also working with us with park maintenance for the summer. So I'm excited to finally have another park maintenance worker. It's been a couple of years since we've had a part-time worker there, so that should be good. This is about the time it always gets brought up, but the pool vessel itself has a lot of maintenance that's required prior to us getting it started. And I feel like every year it gets to be a little bit more. I do have some pictures here again. The concrete within the vessel now is starting to break in a number of areas. And, oops. Maybe, yeah. This is in the gutter area, closest to the bleacher area. And there's roughly, 2.5 inches or so of concrete that had busted over this winter. And, being in the Midwest, that freeze thaw is definitely something that has a big impact on these types of facilities when they're not in use. And we see that every year. Not just that, but we see it a lot within the tile. So all the tile around the upper side of the pool, not necessarily the lane lines, but the upper side is all mosaic or glass. That tends to break during the season, which is an issue. All the tile that is within the lane lines, the blue and also the white that gives it, we're pretty much re-grouting every single year. Not every tile necessarily, but I think it's lane 1 or lane 6. Which one's closest to the slot or to the deep end, Melissa? Do you know?
6.
6. So lane 6 is a major issue. We are literally taking all the caulk out. This year we took out at least 100 tile, if not a little more. We have to clean all the grouting and stuff out of off the concrete, and then try and get the new tile to adhere, which is it's really tough because there's not a whole lot of concrete left in some of these spots that are along this caulk line. So I've had concrete people, I've had Chris Voss come out and look at it. No one has a really easy solution to it other than, cutting it all, busting it off and putting a new joint in, which is a pretty big undertaking for that facility. But we're really going to need to start thinking about these things, on a more concrete, a more, looking into the future at how we want to continue to deal with all this maintenance. So even looking at a new facility or, looking into more of that feasibility study that we've talked about for a number of years as well. So lastly, the Glacial Valley Park Playground is received even more use than what I think I brought up last month. We've had a number of large birthday parties being presented there. I mean, they've had roughly 100 kids at some of these parties throughout the last couple of weeks. So what we're looking into is like not necessarily someone renting it, but at least if they're putting up signs that if you're going to have over 50 people or over 100 people, to let us know so that we can let everyone else know, that this is going on, and we can get more picnic tables and more trash cans up there, because the trash cans over the weekends were actually full, and we cleaned them all on Friday, and the one up there was completely full as people are leaving stuff. And I stopped there on Saturday just to talk with them, saying this, and it's more about that, just probably getting the communication out to people to say, hey, it's great that you're here, great that you're using it. Just kind of let us know ahead of time so we can get more trash cans up there. We will have more up there once we're able to get the path and everything done, but it's just getting a lot of people. So just bringing that to your attention. And
so Mike, I saw I think it was in the newsletter or something about a message from the other parks within the village, missing all of the activity that they used to see. I mean, do you think, is it, are our other parks dead in the water right now, or are they still being utilized? Or
I wouldn't say dead in the water. I kind of, I expected this a little bit. That's going to be where people want to go. I still see, like today, Andy and I were doing a little tour, and there was a family at Hohlfelder. So I think the neighborhood parks are still, something that are important to people, but there are just a lot more people, in which we were hoping would happen, right? Like people from outside of town, it become a destination. They'd want to come out and use this, and that's happening. And, I think it shows what can happen when you build something different or build something larger, within the community. So that's nice. And, the whole thing there within the newsletter, that was Becky talking about it. She's like, I drive around and look at these, she's doing water meters at the time. And she's like, I look into these parks and I don't see anybody. I feel so bad for that equipment. And I was like, she's like, you should put something in the newsletter. I was like, no, I really think you should. You thought of it. That's great. Like, go put some on there. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. And it was nice because she got a lot of feedback from people to say, hey, where is that park? I don't even know where that one's at. So that was nice, to kind of have and see it. And so now next month, we'll just kind of make it a newsletter edition to highlight a different playground or a couple of playgrounds in there so that people know exactly where they can go and where they're located. So it'd be nice.
Mm-hmm. When I saw that, I thought, well, here's a future event, a park crawl for families to go from park to park to park, and just, So
I like that. That's a good idea. Or we could even do a park 5K or something. I'm sure Sarah would be up to taking that on, right? Or Andy as well, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else, Mike?
That's pretty much all I have for now. Unless you have any questions about any of it.
All right, well then let's, well, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from March 15th, 2021. Is there a second out there?
I can second. This is Melissa.
Thanks, Melissa. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, and then at this point, let's go ahead and open it up to discussion if there is any. All right, then I think we're adopted for meeting minutes from March 15th.
Yeah, you may want to ask about the discussion prior to people voting. You know, get a motion, get a second, and then ask for any discussion on that, and then in favor or not. So just so that's the normal format I think people are used to.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Anybody want to make a motion to move us into the next agenda item?
I don't think, do we need a motion for that, Mike?
You don't necessarily need a motion for that. If you want, Andy, so what you can do now, that's been approved for the minutes. So if you'd like to just read line item number 2, if you're able to read that, if you're able to see that, read that, and then ask for a motion if you want a motion, and a second for opening it up for discussion.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
All right, let's go for it then. Into agenda item number 2, discussion and possible action to make a recommendation to the village board regarding the facility use agreement between the Village Cross Plains and the Cross Plains Stingray swim team. For those of you who weren't here just at the very, very start of the meeting, oops, sorry, lost my video there for a second. Mike just sent that agreement out via email, maybe about 5:30. So if you check your email, you should see that agreement in its entirety. And we'll go ahead and open that up to discussion at this point in time.
I'm trying to share it here. Well, I don't know what's going on. Hold on one second. I'm trying to do it again.
Mike, while you're doing that, I can make a motion that we make a recommendation to the village board regarding the Parks and Recs agreement between the Village of Cross Plains and the Stingrays, just so we can open up discussion.
Sounds good.
Go ahead. I was just going to second the motion, Jennifer Bonte, for discussion.
Trying to get this. I don't understand what's going on. I think I'm having computer issues tonight. Maybe it's the operator though as well. I'm not sure. Let's see.
Mike, I think we probably all have it, even if you can't put it up.
Yeah, I can't. It's
yeah, no worries.
Large. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's all good.
So I was able to send out the agreement. There isn't anything really large of a change from 2019. There are some changes from obviously last year, as we had a completely different difference last year. However, within my memo, it does have a lot of the changes, or a lot of the, you know, it kind of gives you the breakdown of time that they'll be in the facility. And then the only other, you know, large thing within that is in 2019, there was discussion to increase the fee by $5. Jeff Mahoney had asked us at that time to, you know, hold off on that increase because they didn't have time to actually add that into their fees. And so I do have that in this agreement. I talked with Emily. She wasn't really sure necessarily that they were able to add that $5 or that was in there, but she did send that to their treasurer or finance person, I believe Mike Peters. I did not hear anything back from him to date. So as of right now, the agreement does have that $5 increase in there still, knowing that if they have issues with it, we'll obviously be able to bring it back and have more discussion on it. So.
And then, Mike, at the start of the meeting, not everybody was here, but I did call out that on page 2 of the agreement under swim meets, it's bullet number 3, there's a typo. And it talks about the 1 weekday swim meet, which is actually Wednesday, June 30th. So we'll just want to correct that in whatever final version is approved or amend it in our final version.
Yeah. Thanks for catching that. I will
Sure.
make that change tonight and make sure that that's part of the agreement as it goes to the village board.
Thank you.
I think it looks good.
Go for it. Sorry about that, Melissa.
That's right.
Well, if there's no more comments, I'd go ahead and make a motion to make the recommendation to approve the contract for the village board with the Stingrays agreement with the Parks and Rec Department. Can I get a second on that?
So I think we have Melissa actually made a motion and Jennifer Bonte made a second for approval. Now we would just be like all, with the change now that Jennifer had found within that, with that change is, more or less is everyone in acceptance of that or for approval, everyone say aye. And then,
perfect.
Yeah. So you can.
Right. You guys are making this meeting easy on me. All right. So all in favor of supporting the contract with the amendment that was made, please signify by saying aye.
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 And then
Aye.
opposed, do the same. All right, seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you so much.
Perfect.
And then on to agenda item 3, discussion and possible action to make a recommendation to the village board regarding the Parks and Recreation sign design standards. Is there a motion to open discussion on that issue?
I'll make a motion.
Thanks. Second.
I'll second. It's Melissa.
Excellent. Mike, you have a presentation, I think.
Yeah. Yep. So actually, at the previous meeting that we had in March, the committee already did approve the guidelines. I did not make any changes to those guidelines. However, at the village board level, one of the main questions was obviously the costs to these signs. And we had received, one estimate from a company out of the, I believe it was Wausau area. And I was able to send this out to other sign companies and received one back from Vital Signs in Verona with the costs that were listed in this packet. One thing I also was able to do is do like a sign update and replacement schedule. I didn't want to actually put dates on those as I thought there could be some other things that came along that helped us replace these, providing that this proposal goes forward, whether it be asking for donations towards it, which could obviously update that schedule. I've had a number of people ask about updating signs at Xander Park. I've actually had the Xander family contact me about doing so, along with other signs. So they're, they may be coming up with a memorial type program that we have currently with our trees and benches to actually be having signs added to that as a possibility, which would then update the replacement or either a replacement schedule. One thing that isn't listed in here is as new developments come in, obviously parkland dedication money would help update or add that sign to the new parks and or conservancies within that development. So those obviously aren't on here, but they also would be paid for out of that land development fee. The costs that came in were 2x6, 2x8, and 1.5 by 6. Those standards were actually the ones that we had given out or given to us for sign dimensions recommendations. So national standards in regards to park signs, whether it be based on a mini park, a community park, or a neighborhood park or community park. And so that's why those are the size, or that's the recommendation for the size and or the cost that we will receive from Vital Signs. really, like we talked about before, our parks and open space plan discusses and talks about updating, not only adding more signage or new signs, but updating our signs to be replaced with our current logo, and what's happening within not just within our local area or Dane County, but also within our state and or national level of what's happening within communities for signage. One of the big pushes for Cross Plains is to be known as a recreational destination. We have a lot of outdoor recreational opportunities, whether it be fishing, whether it be mountain biking now, whether it be hiking, and we don't necessarily have any, or it's hard to notice our signs, but also there's a number of entrances and or areas that don't have any signage at all. So the plan would be to update that to the best standards possible, and use this guideline as such to be able to update those signs or add new signage in places that we feel are needed. So really, you already did approve for me to take this to the village board at your other meeting, but I wanted you to make sure that you did see the costs with Vital. Being a local contractor was very helpful as well. We can go right there to pick up the signs. We don't have a lot of the transportation costs and things with that either. And the signs came in at quite a bit less than they were from the other companies. So I'm more or less recommending we go with the signs and guidelines, and that we kind of move forward with this plan and go with Vital Signs to make this update, knowing that this could change. A lot of sign companies, each year we could go out and get different quotes. If the quotes end up, coming back next year from Vital at 3 times this cost, you just never know. So just knowing that this would be the start for where we would be moving within our signs and our parks and conservancies.
So Mike, looking at the costs that are on your cost sheet and knowing that we have approximately $2,500 a year to spend, it looks like you should be able to do 2 signs a year.
Correct.
Is that the plan?
Correct. That is the plan that would be the plan as of right now. And okay. And that's not even stating, that we go back to the village board, or we go to the village board to ask if this be a capital improvement cost, of which we do all of them at once. I'm not saying we will, or that that's the recommendation or something we should do, but if it's something that the board or the committee feels, strongly about, that we need to update or be, make this a part of our goal and our strategy for changes within our community, then we do it even quicker than that. But I think, reaching out to the community and or neighborhoods to say, this is a program that we have on there, maybe even a plaque on who this is donated to on the back of it, I think could be something as well, who put money forward for this. So there's just a lot of options within that. So
based on conversations we've been having at the board level, like signage and the aesthetics and having sort of a refresh of the Cross Plains identity in this regard is pretty heavy on the agenda, and I believe it's going to come into the next agenda for sure. So whether we do it on the budget the parks has every year and just kind of refresh every so often, or as Mike said, do them all at once, I think it's gonna be a conversation piece as part of a bigger sort of makeover of Cross Plains at some point.
I think
Mike,
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jennifer.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say that I think having a policy at the board level is extremely important, and I appreciate you pulling it all together. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Melissa.
Mm-hmm. Mike, you said that the Vital Signs estimates were considerably less than the others. Can you just give a quick, is it like half of what the others were? Or can you just give it? Yeah.
The only areas that I would have said they were less, the vertical signs, those are roughly, I think, around the, just to make sure here, those would be the 2x6. So those are 1,200. The costs that we got from Tim were like in the 1,600 range. So it's $300 to $400 cheaper,
okay.
Which isn't, considerable, but it is, it would allow us to do another full sign, within that year. So.
Sure. And this is my other, and then my other question, and then I'll let somebody else jump in. So as far as this replacement schedule that you have listed, I certainly don't want to micromanage things, but just curious, is this something that we would discuss further, or is this just something that you said? For example, I look at Municipal Park and I know that park pretty well. Just wondering how you would put 2 signs there, and are 2 signs necessary?
Yeah, so the reason I had the two one would go where the playground is located, as currently there isn't anything there, and then the other one would be in front of the pool building, like on Lewis Street is the thought, mainly because we don't have any signage at all for the pool other than what's on the building itself with the rules. So I thought that would be, it is still in Municipal Park, even though it's Cross Plains Pool. So that was my thought within that, but we can discuss that. There's just even the address, right, which was on the bottom of these signs would be on that, which wouldn't, is currently we don't have an address other than on the building, which are pretty small fire numbers. So that was just the thought.
Sure. Okay.
And we can discuss that. I won't be purchasing these signs prior to coming back to the committee, so I'll have it as a line item on here. Not that I would normally always do this, but for this type of program, I want to make sure that everyone is a part of that and can see it, and if there are any changes or things we want to see to it. So I haven't necessarily thought out a game plan and like what month we'll be doing these, but if I could do one, knowing every month in September we had new signs coming in or in, I don't want to add anything more to our schedule come spring, but sometime throughout the fall would be a good time, I think, to try and implement new signage.
Okay.
And if you would like to see something more, particular to timing for these too, like years, I thought about that, but like I said, I was hoping, there's another program or something we could do to kind of speed that up as well. So.
If we did replace all the signs at once, what would be the total cost on that, Mike?
What's that? I'm sorry.
If we did replace all of them at once, I didn't find that.
So all of the signs would be, so the 19 parks, if we had 19 new signs within the parks, it'd be 26,600 to do those. And if we did the current seven conservancies would be another 7,700. So you're looking at $33,000 total. I'm sorry, no. Yeah,
34 and some change.
34,300 total.
Gotcha. Okay, there it is. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mike, with the building material costs, are we looking at surcharge and prices for these signs right now?
Not currently. I did ask about that as well. No surcharge. We're not locked in at any price either, though. So I think those were good for, is it 60 days? 60-day quote. Up 30 days. They're good for 30 days. So a 30-day quote. They don't, and it may. I haven't experienced a change usually in that price once they give it to me, but like you're saying with materials right now, that could increase a little bit. So if we do it, I may want to order them earlier. We can always install them, in September, but order them obviously once we get that quote to make sure that doesn't change.
And I assume staff is on board with this as well as the board. I mean, obviously we know we can always do things cheaper, and that's always going to be something that comes up. But as it's been discussed, there's a look and a feel that I think we're trying to get out there. Is everybody seemingly on board?
I haven't really had this discussion with other staff members other than Bill, our administrator. He has seen it, likes the sign, likes the way things look. Other than going out to a consultant to go around usually and ask, what they could do like we did for our entrance signs. That's the only way to really get a whole bunch of different options for people to pick from, unless you have someone else in town. But I haven't heard anything negative from Bill or others than that.
But these are basically the industry standards is what you pulled from with
Correct.
These signs and dimensions and types.
Correct. And then obviously discussion with all of you. I mean, we've had a number of talks and changes. Obviously, we almost went with a sign already that Tim had brought to us. And just to kind of give Andy an update, like this was in our parks and open space plan, is updating our park signage and or conservancy signage. Our plan, our comprehensive plan also calls for signage, more of a branding than anything throughout our community. And how do we do that? And this is kind of the phase that we've went through. And then lastly, I mean, we worked within the committee to come up with different ideas, but then Tim Hillenbrand had come forward and said he'd like to donate new signs, and that kind of pushed this thing in motion even more, and kind of got us on this before we ever even really thought about how we should do it, he was coming with a design and we almost went with that design. And then it got to be more discussion on having this to conform with all other parks and all other areas, which makes total sense. Obviously it's within our parks and open space plan as well. So.
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, for the record, I think the design looks awesome. Looks super. And if anybody on the committee contributed to that, like, good job on you guys.
Yeah.
Mike, do you think, I know Jed was talking about kind of standardization of maybe sizes, but do you feel if like the design is something that could be replicated if Vital Signs goes out of business or hikes their prices? I mean, will we then have a new sign policy for something that that's not sustainable for 20 years to replace all the signs?
No, I really don't think so. This is what sign companies do. And I tried to lay everything out, with the bullet points and like what the font is and what the color is. We have even like, the codes for the colors. So we'd be all set there. We own the rights to all those once they start it too. So like they have to give us all of the artwork and everything, they have to give it. It is our possession. So we could take that to any sign company and they'd be able to build that for us.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, I think this looks great. And I think we just move forward. It would also be very nice if we could somehow get this taken care of all at once, in the next year or two, or even if we did half and then half in the next 2 years. And I don't know if that's something that we would necessarily need to talk about tonight to have that be a recommendation, or if that's just what the village board would make that decision. But, with the pricing as you've have with that estimate from Vital Signs and everything, all the other work and the signs and the sizes and everything, I think it looks great.
I agree. I was just going.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Okay, I was just going to say I agree because I feel like, at some point this sign is also going to get outdated. So I don't want us to keep piecemealing it together. And I feel like this really sets the tone, and it also shows that we really care about our parks. So I think, even though I get the idea of where you spend your money, but signs do really matter. So I do hope that it is pretty quick that we can get these signs switched.
Yeah, my point was going to be that with the cost of building materials, if we've got a quote now, and I think everybody realizes that people are wanting to build homes, and I don't see those costs going down anytime soon. So we might be at an advantage to try to do them all at once rather than spreading it out over a year or two, because those costs could continue to go up.
And even within that, Jed, I wonder if we wouldn't get a better quote for these signs, knowing that we're doing more than 1 or 2 a year, because that is actually what I had given them. So if they knew that ahead of time, obviously that may take them a lot longer too, right, to be able to get this completed. But if they knew that they had this order for, this many signs, I think we'd probably get a better price at that too from them. So, the one thing about fiscal, discussion is you can definitely make a recommendation, right? That is your recommendation from the committee. The village board obviously has the final discussion and decisions on that. We also have a finance committee now that may, want to take this up and have more discussion on it. It may be a good place for them actually as well. I just don't want it to get lost there, or, all the discussion goes to that.
And I'm on that committee, so I could certainly pick that up if you want.
Yeah. It definitely wouldn't be a terrible plan. They more or less are trying to take, things like this, like a whole new sign policy and costs, and, go out and do the homework to see, are there other places that could do it cheaper? Could they take this type of proposal out and do it, within their time, or are there other ways that we could, pay for this signage? So that's kind of where they go. But this could also be discussed and brought up when we go over our 5-year capital improvement plan, at trying to implement or at least earmark, this type of project within that. If it is something we'd like to do, in a 1-year swoop, that's probably where it would have to be located, would be within that plan, so that it's either borrowed money at that point or fund balance money, or grants, or other things can come up with out of that too. But So what I'll probably do is look, whatever your recommendation is tonight, approve this. I believe it sounded, but I would look to make sure that this gets added and we have more discussion on it in the 5-year cap plan when that comes up here in like June, July, August, around in there. So.
I mean, I think it sounds like the committee is okay with voting on this, and I think the recommendation would be that we just do the signs as quickly as possible as budgetary constraints allow, and also with the idea that the material costs could go up significantly if we don't do them right away.
Yeah, I'd say you summarized that pretty fair, Jed. Anybody else have any different views on that? But I think we're all on board with that general synopsis.
I agree.
Excellent.
Do you want to do a vote?
Let's do it. All in favor of making a recommendation to endorse, sorry, I got to pull up the agenda again, my bad. To make a recommendation to the village board regarding Parks and Recreation sign design standards for as soon as possible. Please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Aye, that motion carries. Thank you. And then we'll move into our last agenda item of the night, which is discussion and possible action to make a recommendation to the village board regarding well number 2 restroom and pavilion replacement at Bear Park. Any motion to open discussion on that agenda item?
I'll make a motion to open it up for discussion.
And second?
Second.
Thank you. And then Mike, I think we have a presentation as well.
Yeah, so within your packet, you'll notice a memorandum of for this topic. This kind of got brought up. There was a facilities study that was done, a public facility study that was done, which discussed well 2 itself, which is located at Bear Park, which is this, if everyone can see. So well 2 is considered this current shelter and or pavilion up at Bear Park. The back area of that is the well for your water for a large part of the village.
Mike, is this large diamond or small diamond?
Yep. So I'm sorry. This is on the large diamond at Bear Park.
This is the one we're renaming, right?
Correct.
Approved to rename.
The field itself is doing the naming, is naming down here, and there has been discussion for naming of this as well of the name, but not really brought forward.
Okay.
This area here is the concession area that's used, and then this is an area that's locked, obviously, for the water, well, electrical. And what came out of that public facilities needs assessment was that they're not meeting code within how the building is set up. They need to separate a lot of the chemicals and storage, and they also need to update the electrical, I believe, as part of this as well. So what their hope and plan is to do is to use what is currently the women's restrooms, make that the chemical room, and then make the electrical room where the men's restrooms are currently located, and then having extra storage area here for like the drums of other chemicals or other material that's being used at the well itself. For doing that, they would then update and have to add new restrooms to the facility or to Bear Park. And due to the fact that they're taking the current restrooms away, they're able to use the Clean Water Fund to fund this project for new restrooms. So this discussion was brought to the village board. Staff had discussion at it at the staff meeting. We brought what is actually in front of you currently with Exhibit A to the village board, and they had asked at that time, there's been discussion on it to move it closer so that we didn't have the breezeway, which would be kind of this way. So this area here would be open pavilion going along here, and then open pavilion to the outside as well here. And the board had asked at that time, or I believe it was Kevin Enthusiast, had asked that we, bring this in. So we wanted to come with 2 different options for you, option A and option B.
Mike, can you explain why Kevin requested that?
I believe their thought with this is that it looked kind of odd, having this open area and having, it be separated from the building. I also think that they were worried about, people not being able to be seen in different parts, whether it be here or over, by the door here. More people just being able to kind of hang out in those areas during that time. So staff put together, three different proposals. Three different proposals, and at the staff meeting, which I wasn't able to attend this part of the meeting as I was at the pool, but the staff at that time then had made some changes to what is currently Exhibit B. Exhibit B kind of brings the restrooms over closer to the building here, and has the same amount of restrooms as which we had before, not adding more square footage to the space. One thing that I believe it was Jay was discussing was, using clean water funds. He's worried about increasing the number of toilets and or space for the restrooms, because we're more or less adding to the restrooms themselves without borrowing the money per se, or being within the village capital fund. It's being paid for directly on your water and sewer fees is how that gets paid back. So he didn't want to increase that more than what was currently up there.
So Mike, do you currently have, 2 toilets in the female and 1 in the male? Is that how you get to 3?
So the way that I had it set up actually was, we had at the beginning, we had a female restroom and a male restroom, and then we had a family and or unisex restroom in the middle. It looks like what they had now provided everyone was that these would all be open to all genders, all gender restrooms, which is, I believe Andy had talked about that at the board level too, that's how McPassett just kind of went with a lot of their buildings, which I'm completely fine with. I think it's a great way to do it either way. So, either choice is a good, I think it's a good way to go. Personally, for me, I liked how we had it set up before, was that the restrooms are actually facing the gravel parking lot. So the doors were facing the gravel. And I only said that because, nobody wants to walk through people in a pavilion to go to the restrooms. That's usually, even with like kids or even with others, they don't necessarily want to walk through picnic tables and people that are gathering, eating food here, to have let alone to have the door wide open or, kids running in and out of there. So my idea was to actually have the restroom, have kind of an overhang down here, and enter from the gravel parking area, and then on this side just having it be the wall to the restrooms, and then your open pavilion area here with all the picnic tables. Jay didn't think that people wanted to walk all the way around the building to go in and use the restrooms, and they said something about a temporary or putting up a wall along here, but the current wall that we have up at the current well house, so where the current well house is, there was a wall in front of the door and a wall in front of the door, and we had to take those down because we had more issues with them than they were, what they were intended for. So,
I feel like if you put a wall there, you're going to make it less accessible. Like I think about strollers or wheelchairs or whatever.
Yeah, you'll have to meet that standard. So they'll have to be 36 inches wide, the wall and the width of the building itself. We'll have to keep it. It would have to be 36 inches. I don't see the wall within these plans. That's something that they didn't add to it before this meeting. But I am expecting them to do something of that sort if this is the route that they go.
Mike, when you say they, who are you talking? Who are you referring to?
Village board. The village board obviously will make the final decision for this. But they wanted it to be brought to parks, obviously, for discussion. And then also it'll go to plan commission for more discussion as well, which I should say that's where the signs guidelines will go as well. So those will be going to plan commission next.
I definitely prefer plan A. I think if we're going to have to update the facility as it is, it might as well update it the right way and make it a little bit more spacious, more room for whatever purposes people might have use of the shelter for. I like the layout of the bathrooms better. it gives people more access, even though there, you know, are places, I guess, where people can hide from nefarious activities. I think it's not too hard in the world to find a place to hide from nefarious activities. I don't think a park shelter is going to break those decisions.
Yeah.
And so I just prefer that layout because then you have access to restrooms on multiple sides. You got a little bit more space to maneuver. And, you know, and I understand the argument that was made at the board, and which I think I was questioning was, you know, we're using this well upgrade to essentially upgrade park facilities, and how do you, you know, circle that? But if it's going to be done, let's just do it in a way that's going to make it the facility better and more user friendly for the community. Another piece that was brought up during the board discussion was whether or not we could move potentially the pavilion side to the north or potentially to the east. Are those options on the table? What are your thoughts on that?
How would we, or I guess I don't understand exactly what that means. You mean like over here?
Yeah, so either to the, right, yeah, that'd be east, right? So that'd be the east side, because right now it's, I don't know, it's sucking up 2 more parking spots, I guess. On maybe the east side, it would only suck up 1. And then on the north side, it wouldn't suck up any, and potentially, you know, maybe
So,
that tree gets to stay.
Yeah. The tree is actually a purple and or black ash tree, so it will be coming down in the next few years, next couple of years. We may get another year or another 2 years out of it. The emerald ash borer is here. Obviously, it's taken out a lot of our ash trees. The black and or purple ash have been doing great through it. However, we have noticed now they're starting to get the same boring in them like we had with the white and green. So the tree has a time for replacement. I have added a tree. We have added a tree over here onto the southwest corner here to try and replace that, knowing that that was going to happen. We have a celebration maple, I believe it was, that was added to this area right here. So hopefully, you know, that stays up, and the tree won't be affected as of right now with either of the drawings that have been put together.
Okay.
As far as extending it further to the north, possibly, but the real issue, I mean, if this way, I don't know how we would do it. There's a lot of topography issues. We'd be having to change the lay of the land, adding a lot of fill throughout this to do something like that. So I'm not saying we couldn't, but I don't know exactly how it would be able to add efficiently. Adding it actually to the northeast would be probably more of an issue because this is where all the electrical panels are for the ball diamonds and for the shed and the scoreboard and all of that system. And it's also where they access and do all their grilling for all their games and things. Are kind of set up over here with an awning that comes out. So that would kind of potentially help them, but you obviously can't grill under pavilion space like that. So they'd have to move their grilling operation out probably further.
Gotcha.
For games on Thursday or, games throughout the week and on weekends, this is a popular area for people to bring their own chairs and sit. Obviously, there's not a lot of tree canopy anymore, as that is the area that was just lined with our white ash trees. So we have we've added more trees. We have 3 more that'll be added again still this spring, actually within the week here in Bear Park along here. But it's going to take a while to get that shade back that we once had. So, but I don't necessarily know how we would add a pavilion or pavilion space more to the north or northeast.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, go ahead, Jennifer.
Thank you, Melissa. All I was going to say is I'm not a fan of the doors in the back of the pavilion for the restrooms. If accessibility is the driver, I think it makes it less accessible having those doors in the back of the pavilion, if I'm seeing it correctly. I mean, you think about somebody with a stroller and a toddler and then, trying to move, like you said, maneuver around picnic tables. So I think I'm probably more in the camp of what Andy was suggesting, which is the first, or, supporting, which was the first design that the board wasn't in favor entirely with. That's
Is
it.
there a recommendation, or, you know, is that a consensus with everyone? Are you okay with that layout and that build out? And, you know, the other, I think, big thing is having the all gender restrooms. Is that, you know, along the same lines as everyone's thinking? Those are real questions that I guess, you know, we could answer tonight to then pass on, letting the planning commission know that's, you know, where you all felt and where the discussion was, and then obviously the village board after that. So,
Mike, what about urinals in any of those?
so the layout, the way that I had it was that each restroom would have a toilet and a urinal. So both of them would have that, and they're not in there anymore. I wasn't a part of that. They do have them in 2 out of the 3 here. So if that's something that you'd like to see added, you know, to have 1 toilet and 1 urinal in each restroom, you know, make that your recommendation.
I mean, personally, you know, someone who played softball and still plays, I mean, I think you run into a lot of cleaning issues if you're, you know, having men and women share the same sit down toilet. I just personally, I think it solves a lot of problems. So I personally would recommend that. And this do you get more overhead covered space in that center, or is that wide open?
Like here, you talking?
Yep.
Yeah, so this is so you'd have more airflow, you know, like through the building per se.
But
like
it is covered, right?
It is covered, yeah. So the whole thing would be covered. I believe the truss would go right down the middle here of the building, and then all of it would be covered along the outside here. Sorry, that wasn't a great drawing.
Yeah, well, I do agree with Jed on the ease of cleaning. I just wish we could teach our boys to hit the toilet instead of, you know, have to actually, you know, have 4 toilets in 4, or, you know what I'm saying, 8 toilets and 4 restrooms. But I think it's
well, I mean, you could potentially do it in 2, or however you want to do it. I mean, I don't think the cost is that much more. The plumbing, I mean, once you run the plumbing, it's not that much of a difference. I mean, the water has to go one place or the other. I mean, to add a $200 toilet, I don't, in the long run, I think you're far better off. But
yeah, I agree. And the staff would probably appreciate it nonetheless. But if we're going to do it in 2, I think we got to do it in all 4 to make it truly unisex.
Yeah.
I'd agree with you on that. And I actually didn't notice that, Jed, until you brought that up, that they didn't have them in option 1 or exhibit A. I guess they may not have them in there because they added another restroom, technically another block, to the building itself. But I think that recommendation to add urinals to all of the facilities. And the other thing I was thinking is, you know, mom and dad, or I'm sorry, a mom and a child, or a dad and a child are able to go in there together as more of a family restroom as well, and use the facilities at the same time. So I see that being a benefit.
And the family ones are nice. I mean, especially if you're playing ball and you need to change,
right?
You know, to be able to go in there by yourself. I mean, I've had to change in, you know, you get 1 bathroom for the men, and you got to throw your stuff over the top of the, you know, the sit down toilet so you can try to change, and there's never enough room. So yeah, I mean, I think those are great. And I think, you know, having 4 versus 3 is better. I would prefer A, with the addition of the urinals.
Do you want to make a recommendation to that?
Sure.
Mike, go ahead.
No.
I was just gonna chime in and say, if A is fine with me, and I don't mind the bubbler, having the bubbler. I love that they labeled it bubbler, the drinking fountain, on the inside of the pavilion is fine. But I also wonder too, with outdoor sports and people being on the fields, if it might be easier to have that more visible from the field as opposed to being on the backside of where the restrooms would be. But if it was decided to go with exhibit B, I would definitely, as a parent, feel more comfortable having the access to those bathrooms be on the opposite side. So on the south side of that building, rather than on the doors to the bathrooms on the north side of those spaces, just for visibility from the bleachers. You know, if you have a little kiddo and they say, hey, I need to go to the bathroom, if I can see where they're going, I just would feel much more comfortable with that. And if people are sitting at tables, or if you're having some sort of a gathering there, I would prefer to not have bathroom doors opening right onto that space for odor. And I mean, I know they're going to be plumbed, but but just different things. I think would just be much more aesthetically pleasing to not have bathrooms open right into the seating space of the pavilion.
So you're saying actually what I had said, and so you put the restrooms facing, the doors facing the parking lot, is what
Correct.
you're saying? Okay.
Yep.
Now,
and then also, could you move the bubbler so it's down on that wall, particularly on the west side?
It's interesting because I had asked them to put the bubbler outside of the facility, so they did on one, and then on the other one it's inside the facility. So I'll have to ask, what their thought was on that. Maybe it's just to get more discussion from everybody about what they'd like on it.
Sure.
I liked it being out, into the grass area or out towards there, mainly because more people are going to be able to see it, and they don't necessarily have to come up to the pavilion or area that's heavily used just to get water all the time.
Sure.
Even if you have if the pavilion's being rented out for a party, and you have kids playing on the field, they're not coming up to that party to drink water. So I would prefer that. And the other nice thing about doing something out there is a freestanding unit actually has areas for dogs if we want to make that type of bubbler. Has bottle filling stations now as well, although both of them have that option. But yeah, so I think I would recommend as well, like trying to keep the bubbler out in the elements or outside of the pavilion.
Yeah.
Possible.
All right, well, I can make a recommendation that we go with Exhibit A and that we move the bubbler outside of the structure and then add urinals if possible.
With gender neutral bathrooms?
Yes. Yes.
Got a second out there?
I'll second.
Oh.
Who was it?
Seconded by Sarah, I believe.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Motion by Jed, second by Sarah. All in favor of the motion to move the bubbler outside, go with Exhibit A, add urinals, unisex bathrooms, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, seeing none, that motion carries.
All right, perfect.
Hey, Mike,
the only thing that's not there, it's not on the agenda currently, but if there's anything that anyone would like to add to the agenda for next month, one thing that I did kind of lose track of and fall on was the new playground over at Bear Park in your subdivision there. I have all the notes, I have the RFP, but I have not been able to send anything out to get any quotes or anything yet. So I'll try and have that for our next meeting because obviously I'd like to get all that wrapped up and taken care of before fall as well. So
people still have time to get recommendations in and
yeah.
And how long do they have?
Well, technically that time's done. I mean, if you have some other things you'd like to add to it, I'd say within like this next week would be great. Mainly because I'd like to, it gives me like 3 to 4 weeks to get RFPs out to other vendors and have them put together some neat looking options for us.
Yeah, I just figure that way I can send a note out to the neighborhood and just say, hey, if you haven't gotten your recommendations in, you got to get them in here in the next week.
Sure. Sounds good. That'd be great.
Hey, Mike, can I ask one other question?
Maybe.
I heard this week about there being a chlorine shortage. Are there any issues with the pool and any concerns about that?
I have not heard of any chlorine shortage for this year. We go with Pulsar, the Pulsar, chlorine. So I know that they did have a shortage at one time, but I have not heard anything from our vendor, which is Caracal Aquatics, about any shortages. They actually stopped out today to fill up all of our acid and didn't bring that up either. My dad's actually the operations manager at Hydrate Chemical, so I've talked to him about it a little bit. They haven't had any issues getting it either. So it's just another one of the things that are happening, I guess, in some areas and not others, like gas and other things. So
great.
What about the Legacy Pavilion? I know that there is a separate committee that is involved in that work, but for the next meeting, is there anything to talk about?
So
or
at the village board, board will actually be discussing the use agreement or the the memorandum of understanding with the Lions Club at the next board meeting, which is Monday night. So if you'd like to attend or be in action for that, you know, there'll be a lot of discussion on that topic. You know, what they're trying to do is get this committee together more to form a fundraising committee, in which if they're the fundraisers, you know, they're also going to be the ones that kind of help decide what they want to fundraise for, is kind of where we're at now. So, you know, we have all the options to them. The plan would still be, you know, once kind of like tonight with the shelter and bathrooms, once, you know, a plan is kind of put in place and this is what they're going to fundraise for, they'll be bringing that to parks, taking it, you know, for approval of that structure, and then to plan commission and then the village board as well. So before they kind of get started with their fundraising. So good question though.
Thanks.
Yeah, so
exciting project.
Yeah, there's a lot. So,
anybody else for future business?
Nope.
Sorry, what were you gonna say, Jen?
Nothing. Well, I was just saying, speaking of exciting, I'm really happy to see that it sounds like there's a new cafe coming into where the creamery was, and Tano's will be under new ownership as PJ's, it looks like, starting at the first of the summer. So a lot of stuff happening. Yeah.
Super exciting.
Yep.
Agree.
Well, I appreciate all of you guys bearing with me on my first facilitation of the Parks and Rec Committee. I look forward to getting to know all of you over the course of our, you know, next months and years of work together. Please reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns about anything, you know, related to my role in the committee, or things that I can improve upon or do better, or suggestions you have. I'm open to anything, and I don't take anything personally. You know, let's just do this work better together. And at this point, I'd take a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, Melissa.
Thank you, Melissa.
And everybody just really enjoyed this. They don't want to quit. Nice job, Andy. You did a great first meeting.
All right, all in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
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 And opposed? All right. Thank you very much for your time this evening and in the future. And again, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or concerns.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks Andy.
Bye.
Yep.
Bye.